When you're done rapping, super easy.
And Nikki, are you ready?
Yeah, I didn't want to have that food on the table. Oh my goodness.
We've been here 2 short months, and I don't know if we know each other, but do we really know each other? And we talked a couple days ago about getting to know one utopian a week a little bit better, a little deeper, not necessarily a favorite color or, just a little bit more. Help us get to know them. So, is there anybody that would like to go? Oh, hey, come on up. Come sit down.
We already know what you look like naked.
Sometimes at the same time.
So how does this go?
Yeah.
Questions.
Questions.
Answers.
Do you have any siblings?
Questions.
I have an older sister. And I love her very much, and she's the exact opposite of me. Like, she's very analytical and thinks before she acts, and things that she says make sense. There was a perfect example right there. And actually, just to kind of parlay that into something else, she's hearing impaired. So that's one of the reasons I joined my sorority that I'm in. I'm a Delta Zeta, is because in Detroit, the chapter that I was in, their big philanthropy was hearing impaired children.
So is my aunt. I feel you on that.
So hearing impaired, but not like deaf?
There's 2 different kinds of deaf. There's what they called big D deaf, which is born deaf, and little D deaf, which is somebody that was deaf later on in life. Just so we know. So she is little D deaf.
If you're a moose, she's a flamingo.
Yes. Yes, maybe an owl.
Do you have any animals?
I have my blind cat named Cat that I got from the Detroit Humane Society. Yeah.
He's not hard of hearing.
Okay, so mine are always long-winded. If you could think back about one of the happiest moments in your life, like maybe hanging out with friends and you look around and you're like, wow, I'm really doing this and this is awesome. Like, what would be one of those moments?
Like, my knee-jerk reaction, and then I'm probably going to rethink this later and be like, why did you pick this one? But I went on a charter fishing trip with my dad and my Tony. I remember, like, we were having the worst day fishing. We didn't get anything, and I know that frustration is around here a lot, but we kept saying, like, oh, just be patient, the big one will come, the big one will come. And then our last fish was like this massive bass. It was huge, and I just remember like how psyched my dad and my uncle were, and we were all like kicking back in the boat on the way in, and it was like twilight and the sun was going down and the water was like glass, and we were just on such a high because we caught that big fish. And I just remember being a kid like, this is cool, like seeing everybody that happy, and like that was nice.
And that's Uncle Greg.
Ankle was broken. I don't know why you're out, but he's had some big spills in his life, so I can only imagine it was pretty grandiose.
Your family in Michigan, or they?
All of my family is, all of my family is in Michigan. My mom's got family in Tennessee, which is where I saw Gatlinburg, and I think if I could retire anywhere in the world, it would be Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Nobody's ever been. You need to
Why
go.
is that?
It's an interesting place.
It's beautiful. It's down in like a valley, and all the roads are cobblestone, and they all have this really pretty motif that the whole town kind of abides by, and a brook runs through it, and it's just flowers everywhere. It's just really beautiful. Slow.
A brick runs down?
Cobblestone. A brook, like a creek.
A crook. A crook and a creek.
So, you don't have to answer this. You can if you want. We know what happened in here like the first day, right? And the second day we have the trial right here. And you shared your experience. You said, well, I want to give Josh another chance. I've done a lot of crazy stuff drunk. And I'm just curious, what are some things that you've struggled with and overcome in your life? Some of your triumphs?
I'd say right here, the hardest one for me to have been, the hardest one for me to acknowledge has been my problem with alcohol, because it seems like something that's so obviously easy to just stop drinking, just stop drinking. But for me, it's been such like a social clutch, and especially in a new environment, that it's been hard to quit, and I just keep reverting back to it. And it was funny because Rob, I remember I said something to him not long ago. I was like, God, I'm so stressed out, I just want to drink. And he was like, well, is that really a reason to drink? And it kind of like turned on this light bulb. Like, yeah, I never picked the right time to drink, or I don't drink for the right reasons, if there are any right reasons. But if there were wrong reasons, I'm definitely guilty of those reasons. But then it's just like, you know, it's just like this, like, it's kind of embarrassing to admit that you're weaker than something so powerless, you know, as alcohol, but I am. So it's been difficult to admit that. And then I think so far, me going, you know, through the wedding and the bachelor party and being sober, I'm proud of myself for that. And I've made a lot of the reason I wanted to excuse you in the beginning is because I've made some really, really horrific mistakes when pretty much all the big mistakes I've ever made in my life were because I was drunk. I mean, I have a drunk driving charge. I have a public nuisance charge that came from alcohol.
Elaborate on that one.
I have a drunken disorderly charge.
DUI, so you're good, Hex.
So I mean, it's just kind of like, at what point in your life do you kind of just become an adult and you say, like, this is stupid, it's ruining your life, you don't need it. So I'd say that so far, the way that I'm going, I'm pretty proud of myself for going through events where I would have really liked to drink and not doing it.
It takes a lot of courage. It really does.
I just want to say I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
I know
Some
how
days I
hard
do
that
kind of be
is.
like, ooh, I would really like a drink, but nothing good ever comes of it. Nothing good ever comes of it for me, so.
You're such a fun spirit without it. You don't
Yeah. And I'm not when I am on it. I'm a
You're
terrible
entertaining.
drunk.
That's for sure.
Terrible.
When you're on
Good,
it.
good for like the first hour or two.
And then it's straight downhill like bomb.
Hit it to the dirt.
But I've heard a lot of people that I care about when I'm drunk, which is sad. Like, I heard a lot of people that I really, really love. I'm just vicious, and I go right for the jugular, and I want to hurt them for some reason when I'm drunk. It's weird. And it's people that I love, but for some reason I want to hurt them so bad. And I don't know where that comes from, but it's only when I'm drunk, so.
I got a question.
Yeah.
You've talked a lot about like the bartending days that you had and
Yeah.
into. Not so much of the crazy side, but what was like one of your favorite bartending moments? Tending bar, as they like to call it.
God, that's like, oh my God, that's so difficult. I've had a lot. Okay, I'll give you the
And maybe not so much like a close or like closing with your pals, more of like, I'd say like customers and how you like had a good time with them or something.
Oh, we used to have one. Okay, so I was bartending in this like dive, and when I say dive, I mean they tried to parlay it into this like Coyote Ugly style bar, but it was just a dive. And it was just really your like beer and a shot of haunts. And we used to have this local that would come in every day, and he didn't have any family. And he, you know, he would just come in to just talk. He was just kind of like always our like little cornerstone. He was just always there. Nobody ever sat in his chair when they came in. Like, that was his chair. And this isn't really my favorite moment. It just for some reason is the one that stuck in my head. But he was like just always there. And sometimes I'd get like for some reason agitated because like he'd always want to talk to me, and I'd be like busy. I'm like, I have to deal with other people. Like, come on. And then I remember one day in the winter, I came into work and like he didn't show up ever. I'm like, that's weird. And the next day we got a phone call that he had fallen in the snow and hit his head and died.
Dang.
Like, he froze to death walking to the bar. And then that was the moment I realized, I was like, you know, you feel so bad. I'm like, I can't believe I like shoot him away on like the last day I ever met. You know, it was just crazy how fast. It really said in one day somebody's here and the next day they are not.
Unless this man resurrected, I think I asked you to tell me.
Okay, hold on, my favorite. I have a good one. I have a funny one.
Unless
Okay.
that came back up, I think you should just stop.
I have a funny one. Okay, so I used to be like a trick bartender. Like, I did a lot of fire breathing, and I would roll the fireballs and all that other stuff. Yeah.
What's it? Rolling a
Like
fireball.
flare. You literally light. You can soak cotton balls in a liquid. I used to just use rubbing alcohol, but it'll light them on fire, and they won't singe up. They'll stay lit for a little while. So you can roll them in between your fingers and play with them and whatever. And then I did a little bit of flare, and I was also a fire breather, which ended up being bad, but that's okay. I used Everclear to breathe flare, which ended up not so well for Hexy one day. But I remember we had this super cool party, and it was a weird kind of party. It was like a fetish party, and I was breathing fire. And I remember they put me up on this big, we set up this big like stage in the middle, and I just remember like breathing fire and performing, and everyone was like, oh my God. And I was like, that was kind of cool when I was bartending.
That's dope.
That was
On
cool.
top of the bar?
Not on top of the bar. It was like a platform in the middle of everybody. So they all
That's
just
gonna be our
kind of
next show.
it was cool. I don't know if I could do it anymore. I was like 19.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was
Never
young when I was
guessed that about
bartending.
you.
Yeah, I was young when I was bartending.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What do you wish you could go back in time and change? Like an event in your life that you regret or wish you could have done differently?
I've always been the type of girl that like when a guy would come into my life, I would very much like become him, and like whatever he was interested in, I was interested in. Whatever he was doing, I was doing. His friends were who I spent time with, and like his family was who I spent time with, and I lost myself a lot. And my boyfriend in high school got accepted to a college, and I had all of these great offers on the table, a lot of money. You know, I was an athlete, I was very successful, I was very intelligent, I was in a lot of clubs, I was a leader of a lot of things, and I just kind of like went, well, I'm gonna go where my boyfriend goes. And so I passed up a lot of opportunities to some very good schools to go to a school that my heart wasn't in, you know, so I regret that in a big way. If I could go back and change that, I would.
Did you guys break up freshman year?
Oh, we broke up the second I got my diploma, so I'm like, and then we're going to the same, well, he was incarcerated for a pretty long time. So there's that. Then, go ahead.
Family is very important to me now, and I just want to hear what your life is like with your family and what's your favorite holiday. I just want to hear a bit about what it is like around your home with all your family.
Well, family is, I would say, definitely the most important thing to me in my life, and I have a huge family. If I sat here and named them all, you guys would be like, shut up. But I'd say Christmas is my favorite holiday, and when I say my family comes together, I don't mean like my immediate family. Like, it gets all the way into my cousin's kids. We all get together in a house, and we kind of like cramp in, and we just hang out. We eat, and we laugh, and we joke around, and it's great. It's just like any other time anybody has their family together, you know, but
Not everybody does that.
yeah, you're right. I am very lucky.
You are.
I mean, my family gets together and celebrates like if you fart. It's great. Like, oh my God, party, hooray! But I mean, they're involved in it. Like, even when this whole thing was coming about, like they were very much involved, and you know, they even had like a barbecue and all that other stuff for me, and they did 3 different things before I left altogether. So that was nice. I mean, they're very, very, very close. I don't go a month without seeing them in totality.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
I even go to my mom's house like on a daily basis to steal toilet paper and tell her what's up.
What is it?
You use toilet paper every day? The whole roll every day?
I steal so much from my parents. I wish they knew, like, well, they do now, sorry, like all their canned goods stuff is always missing, and like that toothbrush she bought herself is always gone.
Can't
Toilet paper, soap, bars of soap.
What is it that your sister does?
Huh?
What does your sister do?
My sister has a really noble profession, actually. She went to school and she's certified. She takes care, and you guys are going to think it's ridiculous in comparison to me, she takes care of elderly nuns. Damn. In a home.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, she's a caretaker for elderly nuns at SSHMI.
What a ticket to heaven.
Yeah. She's very opposite.
I don't think it gets any better. Yeah.
Like, she's very devout. She's very religious.
I'll put in a good word for you.
Yeah, so hopefully if like there is a heaven, she puts in a good word. Like, my sister's not that bright. I think you know that. Like, help her out. So hopefully she could like help me out if that ever becomes an issue.
Okay, tell us about your first kiss.
Oh my God, it was awful! Oh my God. First of all, I'm such a late bloomer. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how old I was.
How old were you?
17.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was 17 before I even like touched the lips of a man. And I was at my best friend's, and
Boy, hopefully.
it was.
Okay.
Yeah. Like,
Boy.
his name was Mo. And we were watching, I forget what movie we were watching, but we did that whole like, you know that like uncomfortable thing where you both know you want to kiss each other, but nobody's gonna pull that trigger? It's like the stalemate. So I think we sat there and we even like watched the credits of the movie. It was that, and I'm like waiting and waiting and waiting, and like the way I had it, because I've watched obviously so many stupid love movies, he's supposed to like grab my face and just like plant one on me.
It was a small
Was it a spider?
It was a spider on me.
It was a small spider.
Was it a big one or a little one?
I don't know. It was
You would have been dead. I just want to throw that out there. It would have bit you 10 times already.
So anyway, sorry. It was we did that whole like standoff thing for a little while, and finally like he was like, "Well, I'm gonna get going." I'm like, "Okay," and we walked to the door, and then finally he kissed me, and I just remember like some of my friends were in the kitchen or whatever, and he kissed me, and I held it together, and I held it together, but inside I was like,
It happened.
yeah, I'm like, "Oh my god!" And then like the second the door closed, I know he heard it, and I was like, "You guys would never guess what happened." They're like, "Shut up! Like, who cares?" They all have it, you know. They're like, "Okay, cool." I'm like, "No, you guys, it was real this time." So that's how that was.
So cute.
What about dream job and why?
What I was going to school for before I came here, what I was getting accredited in was public relations. And
Dream job.
Dream
Any
job?
job. You can have any job in the world. Maybe this is it. Maybe that's it. But any job.
Well, if I could do anything, I'd want to run my public relations company part-time and work with professional athletes and do PR and image maintenance for them. And then on the other half of my time, I'd like to work with my nonprofit. And that's how I want to spend the rest of my days.
It seems like you come from such humble beginnings. We share a lot of things in common, although we're so very different. So where did you get the spirit to want to always give back? Because everything we do, you want to give back. And even when we don't have, when you don't have, you still want to give. Where did that come from?
It's like I couldn't tell you where, because it's been like a forever thing. All I can say is, and if you were to ask somebody else, it would have, and he would have told you about the time when I was like 8 and he gave me $10 to go buy myself a birthday present, and he came with me and he says he remembers I took my $8 and like, or $10 or whatever, and like tried to buy all my friends a present with my birthday present money. I don't know, I just always like, things have never really made me happy. When people are happy, they make me happy. So I think it's probably does come from a selfish place. I'm like, listen, if you're not happy, I'm not happy. And I like to be happy, so that's why.
You've given me so much, and I still haven't painted you a picture. How do you feel about that?
You remember when we talked earlier about if I could like take one thing back in my life and change it? I forgot about that. Here you go. Thank you.
Aww. Can I have that back?
Such is life. Anything else?
I'd like to know what your relationship is with forgiveness and how you got to the place you're at now.
My stance on forgiveness is first and foremost, I'm human. I'm very quick to anger, me in particular, and a lot of times I kind of like, my first instinct is if like I'm angry, I'm gonna be angry at you. And then I sit back for a little while. We're scared. I'm like, I'm real angry. And like I want to get that out, and I want to hate you, and I want to hate you hard. But then I'm the type of person too where like just as quick as I get that like emotional, physical anger out, I'm like, can we be friends now? Are we good? Like you can probably ask him. It's madness. If I don't like him, like I would probably scream in his face for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'd walk away from each other, and then I come back to him like nothing ever even happened. And I know it probably trips him out, and I'm sure it trips everybody else out, but I'm like, I just kind of forget about it. It's like easy come, easy go.
Yeah. You've only spent about 2 or 3 nights in the women's shelter.
Yeah.
Not in a row.
It comes to me quick, like anger comes to me quick, and it leaves me quick.
What is your big dislike towards amateur cage fighter?
My official comment is I don't agree with weekend warriors.
Do you know who my boyfriend is?
What was your hometown like? Was it a neighborhood? Was it a city? What was it like?
The neighborhood, I grew up in Flat Rock, Michigan. It's small town, and when I say small, I mean like either you're in the primary family or you are married into the primary family. Like there's somehow everybody's related, second cousin, somehow it's like very close knit. And even if you are one of the few families, my family being one of them, it doesn't matter because you still feel like you're your best friend married in and whatever. But there's like 2 big families. It's weird, but it's very, very small. And as far as like how it's set up as a schematic, it's very suburban. Suburban small town. We have a really, really pretty river that runs through it. It's a really, really nice town. I like Flat Rock a lot.
What was the first car you drove?
Oh God. I had an '89.
Was it red?
Huh?
Was it the red one?
No, it was like this color, and it was like it was a boat, dude. This thing was up. It was probably as big as this table. All 15 of us. Was it?
Green one.
Yeah, it was this color, and it was a boat, and I.
It was a 90 though. It was a 90. It was red.
Me and my friends used to out of that car. I mean, like we would all like sit on the hood of it. I remember one time, and please don't try this at home. We were at like a house party or whatever, and we had this idea that we were going to ghost ride the whip. But ghost riding the whip wasn't cool enough.
What's ghost riding the whip?
It's where you put the car. You get the car. Okay, so you get the car going about 10 or 15 mile an hour. You throw it into neutral, and then you jump out. You run next to it. But that wasn't cool enough. We were like, that's been done. So we're like, okay, we get it up to like a substantially dangerous speed. You're going like 30 or 35.
Oh.
And so we rolled down the windows, and it was very fast.
The car outran them.
Well, it gets worse. So we throw it into neutral or whatever, and we climb out of it onto the roof, and we're like surfing it, and we're like super cool guys, and then we realize that like it's not going straight, we are going crooked directly into a fire extinguisher. So a fire hydrant. So we hit the fire hydrant, and we all like topple off of the car, and I'm just like sitting there like I cannot explain this to my parents. There's no way I can explain this to my parents. So I remember like parking my car like down the street. I remember parking my car like 7 houses down because I knew if they asked me about what happened, I was done. Like the top of my car was all dented in. It would look like a golf ball, and then like the front end's all buckled in. I'm like, there's no way. So then eventually they found out, and I just kind of told them, I'm like, oh, we were at this concert, and we had to stand on the roof to see the concert. That like got so elaborate. And I'm like, then somebody hit me.
Did you really like get mad when you told them to? You like, man, somebody hit my.
No, yeah,
you played it really good.
But they saw right through it. I should have won an. They were like, okay, but what were they? I'm like, I still don't know. This is probably the first time they know about that. So, and there's a lot more of those that I'm sure will come up.
Who's your best friend at home besides your sister?
I have a few, but I'd say my very best, and she was the one. That was the wedding that I missed, so that was a bummer. But it's an honor for. She was the one locked in the closet with me for confirmation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, every like weird thing I've ever been through in my life, it's been with her. I mean, there's not one single event in my life that I ever went through alone. We were like everything. She knows.
Did you get detention a lot in high school?
Inside of high school, I was a saint. I was like president of Key Club, and I was like a track star, and I was on like homecoming court and prom, like all this other stuff all the time. And then outside of school, I was such a Hellcat. I was just destroying the town that thought they loved me all the time. All the time. We would like egg people's houses, ruin their cars, lots of just terrible, terrible things.
Did you love the party in high school?
No. I loved to, in high school, I loved to party. I loved to destroy things. I just wanted to see the world burn.
Anarchy.
Anarchy.
What about your favorite book?
My favorite book is The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. I think it explains a lot of our animalistic behavior and why we do the things that we do. And I think it also explains, at least in my eyes, just from a non-philosophical or religious standpoint, how a society has to function to push a species forward.
Which is?
It's
in the book.
Can you give like a
read it?
Well, there are 3 different types of like types of lifestyles that he addresses in the book. The first is the taker, the second is the giver, and the third is the tit for tat. And what they did is scientifically they put all 3 of these personalities into a computer just to see which one just to see which one like, you know, won out. And at first the taker won for a long time. Because obviously when you protect yourself, you stay alive longer. But then it hit a wall because the rest of the animals kind of found out that this one was taking more than the rest and was selfish, and eventually that species died out. And then was the giver, or the softie. The softie was the first to die out because it bled and bled and bled and bled and never really received anything. And then last was tit for tat, was the survivor. But it goes kind of in depth, and I'm sure he's like watching this right now, absolutely hating the way I just described that.
What do you think? Now on philosophy. What do you think is the meaning of life?
It's going to sound dark because I'm a very science-based person. I think that the purpose of life is for us to just prepare the world scientifically for the next generation. I mean, I don't really believe in a heaven or a God or a divine purpose or anything like that. So if I had to break it down into anything, I just think it'd be understanding how the world works in a tangible way and being able to present that to generations that are coming.
What are you, a Republican or a Democrat?
And nothing. Or nothing.
Are you registered to vote?
I am registered to vote, and I will tell you that the last time I voted, it was Democratic.
But what are you registered as?
My
Party.
Democratic.
Okay.
Who's made the biggest influence on your life?
My mom and my dad. Mostly, though, if I had to say that I was the mirror image of either of them, it'd be my dad. My sense of humor is what I get from my mom, but the rest of the 90% is my dad. The good and the bad.
What is that? How you got into hunting? With your bow and all that stuff?
No, surprisingly. Like, my dad was a hunter, yes, but I mean, when he would go out, it was like boys' day, and like, he would go out with his buddies and whatever, so I never really wanted to be like, hey, bring your kid along. It's like, you know, it was his kind of like only escape, so I didn't want to just trample all over that. No, actually, I got into it from ex-boyfriends.
What was the coolest job you ever had?
Oh, my parents are going to hate me for this, but when I worked at the adult club.
Yeah.
We're having an adult party, Halloween party tomorrow night. Is that the same kind of thing?
Okay, let me tell you guys though, let me tell you exactly what my job was there.
Mike knows how to dissect questions.
So I was part of the management staff, and what my job was promoting and party event hosting, like event coordination. And so like we would get all of these, we would have to, and the club that I came from is a nationally known. So, and I mean, we had the coolest club. I mean, this club was just brilliant. And then, like, a big part of that.
What town was it?
Lincoln Park, but they called it Detroit. But my job basically was to throw the parties. So, like, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's Day, just basically anything I could think of, we would throw a party. Like, we had an Aztec party where we sacrificed a virgin. We had, on Thanksgiving, mashed potato and gravy wrestling, which was hindsight really messy.
In that place.
But I mean, it was a cool job. Like, I got to like throw big parties, and like, you know, it was a gas.
A gas.
Do you want to have kids?
I do want kids. I don't want to raise kids in the state that I feel like society's in now. So I feel like for the betterment of my child, I'd like to wait. For my child that I don't have yet, I will wait.
Like a millennium, or
maybe never. I mean, if it never comes, it never comes. But I mean, young child. Anybody else? My shoe size is 9.
Bra size?
Just kidding.
He knows.
He knows it already.
Tell us more about Detroit. Like, what are your hopes for it? It's in the news a lot. There's some trouble there, and people are like rallying behind the community. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Detroit's a gritty city. I don't think I have to talk too much about the problems that we're having. I think they're pretty much blatant. I mean, and we've been hurt by a lot of our own. We had a corrupt mayor. We had a lot of corrupt law enforcement. We had a lot of corrupt politicians. But what I have hope for is I see the people in Detroit. I know a lot of people from Detroit, and I know a lot of students when I went to school in Detroit that are very, very ambitious, and they're entrepreneurial, and they're bright. And I think that it's really going to turn around. I have hope for it. I think obviously our biggest struggle has been a financial one, and that's because Detroit kind of put all of its eggs in the automotive basket, and when that collapsed, the whole city collapsed. But this has also happened to Detroit in the past, and kind of like the Phoenix, it came back to an extent. But I think now, knowing the generation I know that's taking care of Detroit, I think it's going to be even bigger and even better, and hopefully I can be a part of that.
Just a follow-up, and then I'll be done about. Like right now, it is the end of October, and we're in t-shirts and shorts. It's sunny out and warm. And it's not that way at home, probably.
We went on the bingo cruise. So somehow we accidentally like picked the bingo cruise. So everybody there was like 90 and up. So my sister and I had nothing to do with this bingo cruise. And people were really like, I love bingo shirts. I mean, everybody there was like 65 and up. The boat at 10 p.m. was a ghost. It was just me and my sister. We had nothing to do. Like all the shows stopped unless we wanted to play 24-hour bingo.
Did you play bingo?
No!
That's why it was $600.
Right,
that's why I was so cheap.
So cheap. So there was that. We went on the bingo cruise and acquired a lot of extra charges for some shenanigans.
That's funny. I'm just picturing you in that pool.
Oh, with that lifesaver around me. This is great. What? Are you okay?
Yeah.
I was. What do you want? Anything else?
Any more brain busters?
What's your favorite movie?
Rudy. Because you got a long degree,
He never gives up.
He didn't give up. He didn't give up, okay? And then they put him on his shoulders and they all cheered for him, and it's like such an underdog story. I'm so all about it. Plus Sean Astin, he's another one of my weird celebrity crushes. And Mickey Rourke, yeah. I have a weird crush on him.
You keep mentioning that.
I like Mickey Rourke.
Today Mickey Rourke or old Mickey Rourke?
Now Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, I meant, yeah, past.
Who's your favorite James Bond?
Pierce Brosnan.
Ooh.
Good, man.
Yeah. Daniel Craig's awesome.
I think
so, though?
He needs to be dark the best for sure.
Like Pierce Brosnan.
Sean Connery, I gotta give it to him.
I like
He killed it, man.
Daniel Craig's.
Is that it?
Like this is a hot topic.
Dream car.
My dream car? 70s. Like,
Hard top or soft?
That's a dream.
We had this conversation.
I'm thinking like it was.
Stingray.
Stingray. I remember when I told
Sell
him, he was
it
like,
by
what's your dream
20
car? I'm like, 1970s Stingray. And he was like, huh? He was like disappointed. My dad's a big car aficionado. He had a 1970s Super Bee, and he used to keep it in a bubble. And I am not kidding when I say it was in a bubble.
That's car.
He used to keep it in an oxygenated bubble because he thought the dust would tarnish the paint.
Awesome. He was real.
He's right. He was right.
And he used to make me like every time I would get into it, and keep in mind, I think we only drove it twice in the entire like 5 years it was in our possession. And he would make me like take off all my rings and bobby pins, and like I couldn't wear like jeans because they have the rivets, and he didn't want to scratch the leather, and like no belt buckles. And
Smart man.
He really knows you.
oh my God! If I could tell you how much labor I had to put into like washing my dad's trucks, because he doesn't just wash the truck and dry it. He has to open all the doors, wipe all the inside first, then the back, and then he makes me put the black on the tire, and then I have to polish everything.
So he washed his truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was like, between my sister and I, it would take us like 2 hours to do that.
That's thoroughly washing your truck.
Oh my God, you could eat off of it. But you couldn't, because he'd beat the hell out of you. Now that?
One more. What's the first thing you want to do when you get out of here?
Ooh, I like that.
Oh my God, honestly, this
Like
is
the
gonna...
first, like as soon as you get out of here, like.
Oh.
Just say what you're gonna say.
Oh, I was gonna say like the first thing I want to do that you guys are gonna be tripped out is I want to come see you guys. I want to come see you guys in like your like actual environment.
Natural environment.
We'll be in Vegas.
Natural habitat.
Well, okay, so then the first thing I'm gonna do when I get out of here is go to Vegas and ruin their Vegas.
No.
You will not do
Ruin
that. You will not.
That's
We're
what
gonna have.
I want them to put my. Oh, Bella, that's bees in your eye.
I know.
Call me Hoss.
Stingray.
Raven.
That was
No,
nice.
don't hit him. Now
Didn't
he's
hurt
gonna
him
be
none.
mad
Didn't
if
hurt
he
him
doesn't
none.
sting us.
He don't
I
mind.
don't know about that name. There's a Lord something staying there.
That's him.
We do have a Lord Magoo here. Yeah, that's it.
Give me the room number.
There is a Richie Go Get 'em soul.
We really should do that. That'd
He
be
asked for a smoky drink.
There is a DJ Stump Dumps that paid in quarters for his room. All right, well, thank you guys. That was nice.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.